Hello guys, my name is Daniel and today I want to talk about my school, St. John's College. I guess one of the main motivations I have on creating this video on this topic is that I couldn't really find too many online resources about the school, especially from a student perspective. The St. John's official channel on YouTube do upload videos occasionally, but most of the videos they had on YouTube are too specific and not enough to attract people who have no idea about the school. And because there's a school called St. John's University in New York, it makes it even harder to find information about St. John's College. Therefore, I decided to give YouTube an update by interviewing some of my friends in the school.
My name is Zion Peer. I'm 23 years old. I'm graduating St. John's College in Annapolis this year, May 2022. I grew up in Maryland, but my family, my father's side comes from Panama, and my mother comes from Belfast, Northern Ireland.
Hello, my name is Ivan Solzhenitsyn. I'm from Moscow, Russia. Lived there 16 years of my life. But from 10th grade to 12th grade, I went to boarding school in Massachusetts, United States. And now I'm a freshman at St. John's.
My name is Helen. I'm an international student from Germany, and I'm in the class of 2025. After St. John's, I hope to either go back to Germany or go to law school in the US.
My name is Daniel Hahn. I am a graduating senior. I am 22. I will turn 23 June 21st. I am an intramural captain. I am the founder of chess club here at this college.
So one thing I really enjoy about St. John's is I love interacting with different people and being able to interact with these variety of ideas. So there's a great sense of community at St. John's that I enjoy. But I guess more importantly, the fact that at least once or twice a day we get together and we get to discuss interrelating topics and getting this diverse perspective on these, what I feel like are fundamental topics. It just feels like it opens me up more and more as a human being. It helps me see myself in others and help me see others in myself. I guess to emphasize or to elaborate more on the topics, I think is what I love the most is that I get a chance to come here and think about the most fundamental questions of life. So whether that be through philosophy, through biology, through physics, or the geometry that informs physics. So to keep it simple, I would say definitely the people, but also the topics, and then the way we interact with those topics. I think when I talk about classes a lot with friends, I emphasize that the variety is what makes it so good. It's like everybody's voice and their opinion matters because they all come from a unique experience, and we're all going to be seeing the same exact object in a very different light. It's St. John's, we all sit around the table. It's not necessarily like a lecture hall where we're all facing one person. We're all facing each other, and you can imagine there's like something in the middle of that table, like a rock, and we're all pointing at it from a different angle. And by communicating to each other, I can get a sense of what that other side of the rock looks like, although I don't see it, and I can inform others on what I'm seeing. Something I don't like about St. John's, maybe I wish we did a little bit more technical work. We do a lot of reading and we do a lot of talking, and then there are places in the lab curriculum where there's a lot of hands-on stuff, but yeah, maybe we could always use a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more practical experience.
One thing I do like about St. John's is that everyone is willing to listen to what you have to say. That is very, large treasure of this place. Mostly tutors, of course, they listen very carefully in seminars and other classes, especially in seminar. You can feel that they always are going to listen to what you have to say, and that just feels very, it feels that you're important when such experienced teachers are willing to listen to what you, like a novice in philosophy, have to say. That's kind of amazing. And also fellow students are willing to listen and not just prove their points and show how they're right themselves, but they're willing to think your ideas through, help you figure out stuff. So that is, I think, a big advantage of St. John's that I haven't encountered anywhere else. One thing that I don't like is probably that sometimes I feel like we maybe overpraise some of the authors by saying that there is something genius about them without us being able to understand what is that geniusness. So I'm totally for when we, argumentatively show that some author is amazingly, creates amazing arguments, very strong arguments. When we logically come to these conclusions, I like it and it makes sense. But sometimes we might, think that that author knew something that we don't know, or was somehow wiser than us. And if that's not proved, sometimes it's hard for me to understand. I want people to hear. I want to hear explanations. So maybe that kind of hiding behind the nobleness of authors, that they were amazingly great. This is something that I don't often like.
I like about St. John's, obviously, the great books and how most people are very enthusiastic reading them and then discussing them, and how most people really accept other people's opinions. And I think the classroom discussions are a really good way to facilitate that kind of diversity in opinions. Maybe one thing that I don't like too much is that sometimes when someone has a very strong opinion and they're unwilling to be open about or open towards other people's opinions, but that happens rarely. At least in my classes, it's mostly that people are accepting or at least tolerating other people's opinions.
The thing I like, or I would say love about St. John's is the community, I would say. Community both inside the classroom and outside of the classroom. I've learned so much from conversations that I've had both with my friends and my peers and tutors in the classroom. I think it's a really wonderful opportunity just to be able to learn from one another through conversation, and I think that's only done by community, and that's what makes the school so unique. That's something that I really love about this college. One thing I guess I dislike is sometimes there can be posturing at the college. I think because we are reading very difficult texts and we're doing it so quickly, makes it really difficult to always get a sense of the readings, and it also can lead to, I think, sometimes insecurity and pride on the part of certain students, and sometimes it can create a toxic environment where it seems like people are pretending to know more than they actually do, and it's more about a performance as opposed to actually trying to convey what one knows and doesn't know and ask questions that are helpful for discussion.
I think we should think seriously about what a liberal education means first. And just what comes to mind in a literal sense is when we talk about a liberal education, we're talking about an education that makes people free. And whether it's free minds or a liberation of the soul or the spirit. So I'd say St. John's is unique in the sense that we approach it from a great books curriculum. Other liberal arts colleges, they have that expressed goal of creating free citizens and free minds, but it tends to fall in line with other university models and curriculums where you have an express major and you take classes surrounding that major. But I think St. John's is unique in our curriculum where we approach things from a chronological and classical perspective, and we address that very question of what it means to be free and what is liberation through studying authors and thinkers who have addressed that question throughout the ages. And it's a joy to read one book and then read a book 100 years later that is responding to that book that you read last semester. So I enjoy the privilege of being a part of that conversation at St. John's. And I'm not sure that exists in other liberal colleges. But again, I'd like to emphasize the express goal in any liberal institution. I think we have to think always about what that means to be liberated.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I don't know if I have the full authority to answer it because I haven't been to another liberal arts college, but from the liberal arts colleges that I applied to and kind of got a sense of, those other colleges, I think, give you more freedom of like curriculum, I guess. Those colleges allow you to more pursue like your interests. I don't think in those colleges I had to worry about a math requirement or lab requirement or language requirement. And this college is different. It's very rigid and structured. And for me personally, that was actually something I needed. I think I really, if I had gone to a different liberal arts college where I had too much freedom, I think that would have been something that would have not been the best sort of experience because I needed structure going and I didn't really know exactly what I was interested in. And I think it was good for me to test myself in subjects that I'm not necessarily so strong at, like math and lab. So that's what I could say, like how the college is different. I don't have the full authority, as I said, to say that, but I would venture to say that. And I don't think any liberal arts college, kind of going to your first question, or my answer to the first question about community, could kind of replicate that community. It does feel like liberal arts colleges, talking to my friends or looking at the colleges I applied to, that there's a fragmentation because people have diverse and different sorts of interests. And here in this college, you're forced to do the same curriculum and do the same thing together. And that's what sets St. John's apart, not just from any liberal arts college, but just colleges across the country in general. So.
Very different. I mean, the main difference I would say is just if you look at our program and you see that in one distinct feature is that we study same subjects, everyone across campus. In other places, you just don't do that. You choose your own schedule, so you kind of have a more independent, academic life. Here, everything is, you study what everyone studies, and you don't choose anything. So that already creates differences. What are these differences? Well, one, I guess, is that we learn to learn about something that we haven't. No, probably I'll say this: we learn how to discover new interests, because you might never know that you're into linguistics or language, but after you've done a lot of homeworks in Greek, you suddenly realize, it's a very interesting field. Probably if you were at some other liberal arts college, you wouldn't even ever get to linguistics. Maybe you will have one mandatory course, like I know some places do that, but you wouldn't be, no one would force you to do 2 years of studying Greek. Which has upsides and downsides. Maybe a downside is that you really maybe you're really not into languages and you're kind of struggling with that. At the same time, for me, at least, I'm glad that it's kind of limited. It makes you work with, I would say this teaches you to work with the material that is given to you. Again, in the other liberal arts colleges, you choose the material that you study. But maybe in life you wouldn't necessarily be getting what you want in terms of projects and all that. So it's a good preparation for life then, St. John's. That difference of St. John's is helpful.
Well, I think that one of the main differences is that the role of the tutor in the classroom. I mean, we only have classroom discussions or seminar style classes, and the tutor, or I guess in other colleges we would call them professors, are obviously very experienced learners and therefore probably have a deeper insight in most of the text than an average student would have. However, they will never lecture us. They will never just sit somewhere and be this is how you should read the book, this is the facts. But they, just like every other student in the classroom, are still learning from the books, and they're just really there to kind of facilitate that learning, and they're kind of this connection between the author and us, the students. And this is something that I really like, because I feel like because of that, they are students themselves, and that like helps them to like stay open-minded and like not like too jaded in a way.
Alright, before we go to the next question, I would like to ask you guys to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and like button right now. Pause the video, go do that, and comment in the comment section, I subscribe. I will reply to every single comment you guys have. So, please pause the video and do that right now, and then come back and finish the video. Alright, thank you guys for doing that. Let's continue the video.
One thing that I wish I was more comfortable with is that it's okay to be wrong, and knowing that it's okay to be wrong. And in fact, it's essential. One of the fundamental texts that we read freshman year, where we read the author Plato, and he introduces us to the character Socrates. And in one of those texts, I don't remember which, the idea is brought up that in order to know, one must know that they don't know first, right? So it's placing themselves in a position of ignorance, but that is what allows the opportunity to learn and gain some kind of understanding. But that's a constant evolving process. Every time you think you know something, the more you realize, the less you know. So I'd say like getting comfortable with being wrong and quote-unquote vulnerable. And I guess just a small piece of advice that has resonated with me throughout my time at St. John's is study and examine everything, but only follow the good. And I think, again, the process of education is to be able to develop good judgment. So I think that comes about by being able to study and examine all things without prejudice or bias because of where it may come from. So study and examine all, but only follow the good.
I wish I had known that it takes a lot of patience being in this college. I think I wish I had known kind of, or understood that this college is a very difficult place, you know, socially, learning, and I don't mean it in a bad way, like that it's difficult and hard and you'll never get past it, but I mean that it is a struggle trying to learn the kind of curriculum that we do, and being so tight in such a tightly knit community. Sometimes it can be something that's difficult because you get sick of the people you're around, or you get sick of doing the same sorts of classes, and it's really hard to hide in a room of a classroom of like 10, 15, 20 people at most. So just having the patience to kind of stick through yourself and get through a bad day of classes when you don't speak, and not being so frustrated about that, but understanding it's part of the learning process. So I just wish I'd known kind of, it's okay that I've struggled, it's okay that, you know, I'm not doing well in classes, or I'm, you know, not always hanging out with people, or, you know, doing the best in like my intramurals, so to speak. And it's okay to be in a bad mood. So if I'd known that coming in, I think, you know, it would have just made me be a lot more relaxed.
Well, I think the main thing that I was a bit like anxious about before coming here was math. Because I was prepared to go to college in Germany, where I'm from. So because of that, they will like specialize immediately. So like I didn't want to like major in math, so I didn't really take math that serious anymore because I just never really enjoyed it. And then when I learned about St. John's, I really loved everything about the program, but like the math part kind of scared me. And I just assumed that math would be very much like, high school math, and that I would be unable to enjoy it, and that I would be unable to be good at it. And then during the break before starting like freshman year, I I like tried to read as much of Euclid as possible to like learn as much as possible to be prepared. And then when I actually got here, I realized that math is so different. It's so much more about like kind of the process of like understanding everything together. It's not about quizzing students. It's not about like exposing your lack of knowledge, but more about like building knowledge together. And so I wish I had known that before, because that would have reduced a lot of my anxieties.
Well, I think I came to St. John's with a very deep curiosity. I think a big part of St. John's is the holistic nature of studying topics, studying authors from different times, different regions, and on different subjects, but tracing the interrelated themes and the kind of constant, maybe morals or wisdom that one finds throughout the ages. So I think I came to St. John's not with any particular career in mind, but I came to St. John's wanting to learn how to learn. And so that way, whatever I fancy to explore next, I feel comfortable that I've got the habit and the tools to approach it with a empty cup and to be able to take in new information, take on something, but also and do it well, but also be able to have that one thing benefit other areas or other departments or my colleagues and so. Again, I would say expressly the ability to communicate is probably the number one thing practiced at St. John's.
The number one thing I learned from this college is like humility. It's very humbling being at this college. You are surrounded by tutors, not just like who you see in an isolated lecture like in another college, but tutors who are right next to you, going through the texts, and you see how intelligent they are and impressive they are, and also your peers. There are so many impressive seniors, impressive juniors, sophomores, freshmen, and for me, like, that could have been a really difficult when I was kind of coming into high school. I think, you know, I had a lot of self-confidence issues and stuff like that. But one of the things that was great for me was that it taught me to kind of be humble, that there's no shame in asking for help or not knowing the answers or sounding like a fool in class. You can really, at this college, wear your heart on your sleeve and say, I don't understand, or ask for help, you know, not just with stuff in class, but in other interests like you're pursuing. I mean, I've asked help from some students to like learn Korean, because there's some Korean international students, or, you know, relearn Greek or Latin, because that's something I want to do for theology. So there's so many people here who are vastly, you know, more intelligent than me in certain areas, and, you know, some of them just overall, but I'm no longer intimidated by that at all. I feel very humbled and honored, and feel a sense of actually relief in being able to ask them for help. So I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. And, you know, and in life, you know, there's no shame in trying to ask for help, and you know, as long as you ask good questions and you do your best. So that's what I learned here.
Well, I would say reading carefully. Like, I've always been like a fast reader, like throughout my whole childhood, and that is obviously great. But like really thinking about words, and like about the word choice, and like why a word is in a certain place in a sentence or in the whole book, maybe, something that I didn't like appreciate before, I think. And I think that is like a good skill to have, like thinking very carefully about what you're reading.
As Socrates said, I know one thing, that I know nothing. That's really currently a state of mind. No, but really after a year at St. John's, something that I realized, that there are so many complicated things in chemistry, in physics, in I guess in language, that I just I don't know how the world works, operates, especially science. It's really like, you know, why certain things happen, why gravity is in place, why do things naturally want to lose heat, like yeah, things like that. It's just a complicated world. That's the conclusion I really got from this year, because we did so many subjects, right? We had lab and Greek and philosophy in seminar and history in seminar. There are a lot of complications, so no clear answers to questions. I guess the manifestation of the fact that the world is complicated. That's what I gained.
Oh, thanks, man.